Wang Lan looked at the interior of the furnace and nodded lightly. No wonder those guys surrounded the Cloud Sky sect and didn't make a move. It turns out that they're planning something big outside. If they make this thing, the Cloud Sky sect's defensive formation will be as fragile as paper. That's right. They want to finish their work in one go. They should be waiting for the most suitable time now. It was 3:15 in the afternoon when they made their move. Inside, he raised his head and saw that the sun was almost at its highest point. It was the time when the sun was shining brightly in the sky. The sky was clear for thousands of miles on one side, and the clouds were dense on the other. This scene was quite shocking. Li Yuanqing looked at the hundreds of people below. All of them were quite powerful. Even though he had to expend a large amount of energy to control the temperature of the alchemy furnace and consume a lot of yuan qi, it could not be underestimated. Although the three of them were quite strong, they were still not enough to deal with so many people. In the end, his gaze fell on the position of the alchemy furnace. Since he could not defeat hundreds of armament masters, he could not help but be shocked. If they destroyed the alchemy furnace that they had worked so hard to control, wouldn't they achieve the same effect? After Li Yuanqing made up his mind, he made a plan. However, the two guys beside him had already discussed it. Same old rules. You go to the front to attract their attention and open up a breakthrough. I'll find the right opportunity to mess up the ingredients in the pill furnace and let them miss the best opportunity. Huofeng very skillfully took out a set of array discs and placed them under his feet. Wang Lan didn't say anything else. She directly folded the 9 gourds behind her waist, and a large fan appeared in her hand. Senior, how can I help you? Li Yuanqing did not expect these two seniors to directly exclude him. Huofeng's hands were forming a seal. He didn't even look at him and said, "Stand behind me obediently and save your life. I'm still waiting for you to find the heavenly soul incense for me." As he spoke, Wang Lan had already arrived outside the group of Taoist masters with a large fan. At this moment, the hundreds of people inside finally noticed the 3 guests outside. 2 of them stood in front of Wang Lan. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the forbidden area?" Wang Lan had a drunken smile on her face, but she was calm. "This old man drank too much and wandered around before swimming here. What are you doing? Could there be some conspiracy behind all these people gathering together?" "Nonsense. How can you come to this place? Quickly retreat." The 2 of them shouted in unison as they brandished their weapons and charged at Wang Lan. Just as the 2 of them were halfway there, Wang Lan suddenly fanned herself with the large fan in her hand. A violent gust of wind appeared out of thin air. The wind carried the whistling sound of flames as it directly hit the 2 of them. The 2 of them were blown by the strong wind, and their clothes were all burned to nothing. Their skin was also burned by the flames, and their hair was burning to the point of emitting starlight. The 2 of them panicked and mobilized their spiritual qi, hurriedly resisting with all their might, but they could only barely resist. Seeing this, Wang Lan fanned out again, and another gust of wind hit the 2 of them. After the wind blew, the 2 of them instantly turned into powder, leaving only a piece of powder that was blown away countless miles away. In just 2 moves, the 2 of them had their souls scattered. Wang Lan put her fan aside and took out a wine gourd from behind to take another big gulp. She said with some emotion, "Haven't had such fun in a long time." Seeing that the situation was not right, the Taoist masters below immediately sent out a team of 10 people to surround Wang Lan. The flames in the alchemy furnace became more and more vigorous, and the sun in the sky became brighter and brighter. It was as if there was a faint thread connecting the sun and the alchemy furnace below. At first, Li Yuanqing suspected that he had seen wrongly. However, he was shocked to discover that after the thread formed, it seemed to be absorbing energy. The incomparably dazzling sun gradually dimmed. On the contrary, the alchemy furnace became more and more dazzling. Huofeng's expression became increasingly grave when he saw this. "We don't have time." A phoenix slowly took shape in Huofeng's hand. That little phoenix. In the beginning, it was just a lotus flower slowly changing and swimming. First, it grew into a mountain area, then it grew wings, and then it grew a clear head and a long tail. In the end, even the feathers on its body became clear and distinct. Li Yuanqing could clearly feel the terrifying power contained in the body of the small phoenix. In order to condense this fire phoenix, more than half of the spiritual power in Huafeng's body had been sucked away. He had swallowed several bottles of pills in a row. However, the aura in the pill furnace was getting stronger and stronger. The fire and wind were not completed yet. Meanwhile, Wang Lan was surrounded by the dozen or so people. Those people were now careful and had their own formations. It was difficult for Wang Lan to break through for a while. It looked like the game was in a stalemate. However, at this moment, an incomparably huge Dharma idol suddenly appeared in the world and stood tall. The Dharma idol looked down at the ant-like masses beneath its feet with incomparable dignity. The moment the Dharma idol appeared, the heavenly masters exploded. That was because this extremely powerful Dharma idol had already raised a big foot and was about to pluck it down on their heads. It looked like this foot was about to wipe them out. At this moment, although the people in the middle were still struggling to hold on, there were already many people on the periphery who were retreating. They panicked and did not know where to go. Stay steady and don't leave. In the center of the array, a man in a green Taoist robe was fluttering in the wind. His shout had some effect, but it was too late. Due to the sudden retreat of the Taoist masters who were fleeing outside, the power in the alchemy furnace changed rapidly. Now, the entire alchemy furnace began to tremble violently. Seeing that it was difficult to continue the pill furnace, if this continued, the treasures inside would probably explode before they could even be refined, destroying all of them. At this moment, the man in the green flame robe suddenly took out a golden talisman. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence on the talisman. In an instant, the talisman tower glowed with golden light. With a wave of his hand, the golden talisman expanded in size, becoming 300 meters in size. It covered the opening of the pill furnace like a blanket. With the addition of this power, the alchemy furnace that had already begun to shake violently slowly calmed down. Coupled with the efforts of the people below to maintain it, the power inside was once again balanced. The Taoist masters who had just escaped were surprised to find that the Dharma had disappeared. Li Yuanqing could summon this origin form, but so far, it could only have a deterrent effect and could not display much strength. Just now, he was able to scare them off, which had already achieved the effect that Li Yuanqing wanted. At this time, the phoenix in Huafeng's hand had become more and more vivid. Good fellow, what was that just now? Huafeng looked at Li Yuanqing in disbelief, but he had to focus on the phoenix in his hand, so he didn't have time to ask. Li Yuanqing replied casually, "It's just a little trick. Senior, how much time do you have? Their strength is unstable now, which is the best opportunity." Huafeng suddenly raised his hands, and the gorgeous fire phoenix finally flew into the sky. It slowly spread its wings and flew high, circling around Huafeng's head twice. The moment the fire phoenix took shape, the green-robed man seemed to have smelled great danger and hurriedly shouted at them. "We can't let that phoenix come over. Stop him." In an instant, more than a dozen heavenly masters pounced towards Li Yuanqing and the other two. "Where are you going?" Everyone from the divine fire sect shouted. They raised their hands and released a sky full of flames. They connected into a large area and directly covered the fire wind. They joined forces and formed a curtain of flames that was bound to block Hua and Feng. Li Yuanqing waved his hand, and a layer of light appeared in front of him. This group of people was coming with great momentum and was not to be trifled with. Li Yuanqing was already prepared to escape at any time and hide in the domain space. He was hesitating whether he should bring Senior Huafeng along with him if he ran. If he was left alone to fight against so many people, he didn't know if he could withstand it. Just as Li Yuanqing was calculating in his heart, the fire phoenix suddenly let out a loud cry. The sound reverberated through the sky and even turned into a substantial shock wave that spread out in front of them. The heavenly masters of the divine fire sect were temporarily slowed down by the waves. The fire phoenix suddenly flapped its wings and slammed into the wall of fire that connected the sky and the earth. "Fellow Taoists, we must stop this phoenix outside. Everyone, don't hold back." They abandoned their concentration and poured all their strength into the fire curtain that filled the sky. Under their burning gazes, the fire phoenix finally crashed into the wall of fire. They thought that they had already used all their strength to condense such a thick wall of fire. They would definitely be able to refine the fire phoenix. However, what they did not expect was that the phoenix seemed to be transparent and actually passed through the firewall without any damage. Everyone who had been waiting to attack was shocked when they saw this scene. They could not believe what they were seeing. In just a moment, the fire phoenix had already passed through the wall of fire and flew straight towards the furnace. Within the huge alchemy furnace, light slowly condensed. The moment this item appeared, the world darkened. A pitch-black abyss was born in the center of the alchemy furnace. The abyss swallowed everything. Not only did it swallow all the light from the outside, but it also swallowed all the light in the surroundings. The originally dazzling alchemy furnace gradually dimmed, and it looked like all the power was about to be absorbed into that point. The green-robed man stared at the last bit with a burning gaze. They were just one step away from success. However, at this moment, the fire phoenix suddenly appeared in his sight. Behind the fire phoenix, the dozen or so Tianshi chased after it in vain, but they could not stop the phoenix. "All of you, attack! We must stop it." The green-robed man's face was ashen. He had sent out so many people, but that guy still managed to break out of the encirclement so easily. This fire phoenix contained an extremely powerful force that made him feel a little frightened. If the phoenix really flew into the pill furnace, their previous efforts might really be for naught. He definitely would not allow such a thing to happen. The remaining heavenly masters all soared into the sky, splitting into many rows in the sky. They picked up their weapons one after another, and rays of light lit up from their bodies as they gathered in the sky. They continuously weaved and finally formed a dazzling large net. This huge net descended from the sky and was about to capture the phoenix. However, at this moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly descended from the clean sky and struck the huge net. A hole was pierced through the middle of the net by the golden lightning. The fire phoenix was enveloped by the colorful net, but it managed to crawl out of the hole very smoothly. When everyone saw this, they were shocked. They wanted to reach out to make up for it, but it was already too late. Huofeng raised his left hand and drew a symbol on his left palm with his right middle finger. He raised his left hand and pointed at the fire phoenix. The fire phoenix, which was originally not running fast, suddenly accelerated as if it had been drugged and directly crashed into the alchemy furnace. Just as the people from the divine fire sect appeared, the fire phoenix had already arrived in front of the pill furnace. It turned into a flame and pierced through the talisman covering the outside.
No.
The green-robed man watched in despair as his talisman was torn apart. He let out a loud roar and pulled out his long sword. He swung out a sharp sword light, but the sword light slashed empty air. The alchemy furnace had originally stabilized, but after the fire phoenix entered, it instantly changed its appearance. The center that was already close to stability suddenly became restless again. Tens of thousands of rays of light scattered from within, continuously escaping towards the outside. The energy instantly became chaotic. The light that shot out was very dazzling, making the alchemy furnace become as dazzling as the sun. Seeing this, everyone fled to the periphery. They had been working hard for so long, but they did not expect to end up like this. The people of the Divine Fire sect knew very well how much fire attribute energy was contained in it. Now that the stability of this ultimate fire-gathering pill had been destroyed in the alchemy furnace, they could only self-destruct. Seeing this, Huofeng was overjoyed and pulled Li Yuanqing without hesitation, running out without looking back. "Brat, you really have some skills. If it wasn't for your sudden intervention just now, I'm afraid they would have already succeeded." Huofeng was pleasantly surprised. He looked at Li Yuanqing and finally had the time to talk to him. Li Yuanqing's sudden summoning of the source image had made a great contribution. Although the Dharma idol did not cause any substantial damage to them, it seriously disrupted their rhythm and bought them some time. Huofeng did not expect that this seemingly unremarkable fellow, who was only at the peak of the array formation realm, Li Yuanqing, would actually be able to provide them with such great help. Li Yuanqing couldn't help but look back and casually replied, "Thank you for your praise, senior. It's just a smokescreen. It's fine to deceive people, but it's useless." This thing of yours is not some simple camouflage. It can deceive the eyes of so many people at once. Even I was deceived by you. Good boy, you're really not simple. Senior, what about the pill furnace behind us? Don't worry, they're too ambitious. The power of the fire-gathering pill is too strong. My fire phoenix will go in and stir up the power inside, and they won't be able to stabilize themselves. And Senior Wanglong? Don't worry, that old man is smarter than anyone else. He'll run away the moment something goes wrong. Let's hurry to the front. As the two spoke, they turned into meteors and flew in the direction of the Cloud Sky sect. Venerable. A person who looked like a guard respectfully half-knelt in front of the green-robed man and begged, "Venerable one, hurry up and leave. If you don't leave now, this place will explode." The green-robed man gritted his teeth as he stared at the pill furnace. This had all been within their calculations, and there would not have been any mistakes. Why had things turned out this way? It's over. The azure-robed man muttered to himself in a daze as he hovered in the sky. Venerable one, you can't do this. The sect master is still waiting for you. Everything is over. Venerable, we've spent so much time and effort on this explosive flame pill, and it's going to be destroyed just like that. Venerable one, if we don't leave now, it will be too late. Venerable one, please give the order to retreat as soon as possible. The green-robed man's dull eyes suddenly came back to his senses. He looked at his subordinate kneeling on his knees and slowly regained his spirit. Hurry up and leave. All of you, retreat. Venerable, I'm willing to advance and retreat with you. I want to catch those 3 people. I want them to beg for death. The green-robed man looked in the direction that Li Yuanqing and the others had left in the distance. His eyes had turned red, and blood vessels were about to pop out. At this moment, at the Cloud Sky sect, both sides were waiting anxiously. Wang Taiyuan arranged his subordinates to carry out defensive inspections. They constantly mobilized their men, trying to defend for a long time. Fang Yunlong, who was outside, looked anxiously in the direction of the valley. Normally, they should have been ready by now and brought the fire-gathering pill over. But why hadn't they come over after waiting for so long? Seeing that this good time was about to pass, what were they doing? The more Fang Yunlong thought about it, the more anxious he felt. He did not know what had happened. For some reason, the purple-robed supremacy behind him was still able to sit still. He was already in this state, but he still acted as if nothing had happened. I say, Violet Spirit, it's already past 3/4 in the afternoon. Why haven't you moved? What exactly happened? Venerable Violet Spirit walked to the clouds and looked in the direction of the valley. At this moment, a violent explosion swept over. The dark clouds in the sky were shattered by the aftershock of the explosion, and it rained heavily. The heavy rain fell on the dense forest below, extinguishing the raging fire. What happened? Something seems to have happened in that valley. What is this thing that has such great power? Everyone in the clouds looked into the distance in shock. They had been anxiously waiting for the good news from the other side, but now it seemed that they would never get the good news. Fang Yunlong turned around with an ashen expression and looked at Reverend Violet Spirit. Violet Spirit, shouldn't you explain to me what happened? Fang Yunlong was so angry that his body was trembling. His face was almost the color of a pig's liver. He looked very scary. Venerable Violet Spirit's face was ashen as well. He stared blankly in that direction, seemingly at a loss. According to the plan, they should have finished refining the fire-gathering sheet and come here under the escort of Venerable Green Spirit to wait quietly. Once he was in position, they would immediately begin the operation. But why didn't that thing go according to plan and be transported over? Why did it explode one step ahead of time? What exactly happened? Even Supremacy Violet Spirit found it hard to understand. Fang Yunlong grabbed him by the collar and glared at him furiously. You still dare to say such words at a time like this? I believed your divine fire sect's words back then, and that was evil. You'll always be an unranked sect. Now that you've relied on some crooked ways to increase your strength, you want to reach the heavens in a single step? Who do you think you are? Fang Yunlong's words were like a heavy hammer, smashing heavily into Venerable Violet Spirit's heart. His eyes, which were already red from the swelling, now bulged even more. His heart was beating faster and faster. Even from such a distance, he could hear the thumping of his heart. "You bastard! I should have caught all of you back then. Let's see how arrogant you can still be." Fang Yunlong's scolding was still not enough to vent his anger. He bared his teeth and glared at Violet Spirit, shouting at the crowd behind him, "Capture all the people from the Divine Fire Sect." Today's matter was all caused by the people of the Divine Fire Sect. They were the ones who forced us to do it. It has nothing to do with Fang Beishan. We were only used by these crooked ways. Fang Yunlong's acting was wrong, so he immediately threw away all responsibility. Now, he wanted to capture the people of the Divine Fire Sect and wash away his responsibility first. Supremacy Violet Spirit, who was originally standing motionless, suddenly began to twist his body very slightly. Fang Yunlong thought he was seeing things, so he took a closer look. He could clearly see that something seemed to be bulging under the thick cloak of Supremacy Purple Spirit. It was as if something was swimming back and forth on the surface of Supremacy Purple Spirit's body. "Men, Susu, join hands with me and subdue him as soon as possible." As Fang Yunlong spoke, he took out a golden-ringed saber, got into a stance, and landed right in front of Venerable Violet Spirit. The other disciples also split up with him and surrounded Venerable Xiling. "Violet Spirit, I advise you not to make a move if you know what's good for you. I still want to leave your corpse intact, so don't take things too hard." Fang Yunlong did not know why, but he felt a little timid and warned. Right at this moment, the silent Supremacy Violet Spirit suddenly bent over. His large mouth opened wide, and a very strange laugh came from within. His laughter was like two pieces of broken gongs put together, tearing and rubbing against each other, producing a sound of metal tearing. This ear-piercing laughter made Fang Beishan and the others feel extremely uncomfortable. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and do it." Everyone took their positions and took out their weapons. First, they used their powerful strength to directly cover Venerable Purple Spirit, wanting to control him first. But right at this moment, Supremacy Violet Spirit's originally tall body was suddenly pressed down by the domain pressure Fang Yunlong unleashed, causing him to collapse to the ground. Fang Yunlong clearly saw a black shadow escape from his body. The pile of mud on the ground looked like a shell. Fang Yunlong stretched out his long saber and split the mud on the ground into two. The human-shaped piece of mud was directly split open from the middle. A pool of black liquid flowed out from the split in the middle, emitting a strong stench. Everyone covered their mouths and noses, not daring to smell it. Fang Yunlong looked at the leather bag on the ground in disbelief. It turned out that this venerable Violet Spirit had been killed long ago, and all that was left was this human skin. The thing inside had sneaked out just now, and now it was even more unknown where it had escaped to. "Sect Master, be careful." Suddenly, someone shouted and pointed at Fang Yunlong's back. But it was too late. As soon as Fang Yunlong raised his knife, he felt a chill in his chest. He looked down at his chest and saw a black awl piercing through his back. It was dripping with blood, and blood kept spurting out of his chest. The blood was very warm. When it sprayed on his face, he felt it was still hot. Fang Yunlong was stunned for a moment before he immediately swung his long saber behind him. He stomped on the ground and rushed forward. The few elders in front of him all came up to him, planning to meet up with the sect master. However, at this moment, Fang Yunlong felt an extremely powerful suction force behind him, firmly sucking him in. He wanted to run forward unwillingly, but he felt that he could not run no matter what. He watched helplessly as his physical body fell forward and landed in the arms of the elders, but his divine sense was sucked out. A short guy appeared where Fang Yunlong was standing. He held a long and thin black awl in his right hand. There were many grooves carved on it, and it was the one that had pierced Fang Yunlong's chest. In his left palm, a small black cage slowly formed. In this cage was a small golden person. The little golden man looked very similar to Fang Yunlong. He reached out his hand to touch the black threads beside him in an attempt to escape. However, every time he touched those threads, he would feel a sharp pain from his soul, forcing him back. "Sect Master." The elders looked in the direction of the strange man. That guy was only 3 feet tall, and he looked like a strange lump of meat when he stood there. At this moment, a terrifying smile appeared on the part of the strange meat called the face. When he opened his mouth, he revealed a mouthful of pitch-black teeth. You want to save him? Who are you? Release him, our sect master. If you let our sect master go, we can spare your life. The disciples of the Divine Fire sect behind him were stunned when they saw this scene. They had originally wanted to protect their sect master with their lives, but they did not expect that their sect master would actually be split into two as soon as he came up. Then, another thing appeared out of nowhere. The current situation had already exceeded their expectations. As a result, this group of people could only stupidly be surrounded by the Cloud Sky sect. The people from both sides didn't make a move for the time being and only looked at the strange person who had suddenly appeared. The strange man smiled happily and played with the small prison in his hand. He licked his lips with his long and narrow tongue, and his face was filled with greed. If you dare to come up, I only need to gently pinch and your sect master's soul will be scattered. I want to see if any of you want him to die now. Who is it? Why is it here? Where is Reverend Violet's spirit? The strange man let out a strange laugh, as if he was mocking the people in front of him. My name is Elder Yuanqing. You should have never heard of my name, but that is not important. Since this operation has been exposed, this old man will take his leave first. I don't want to waste time on those old fellows. Old thing, who are you? Why would he appear here? What did you do to Reverend Violet's spirit? That guy is already a corpse. Isn't he lying there obediently? Can't you see for yourself? Bastard, quickly release our sect master, or you won't be able to go anywhere. Elder Yuanqing pursed his lips and glanced at Feng Yunlong, who was like an ant in his hand. He looked at the people opposite him in confusion. Why can't I go? Old fellow, if you don't explain things clearly today, don't even think about going anywhere. I want to see how you can be so arrogant. Feng Beishan's men got into position again, but this time they were much more cautious. After the sect master was suddenly ambushed, if they were not careful now, they would lose another general. Elder Yuanqing didn't move. He just watched as they surrounded him, but he didn't hurry. Juniors, is this how you treat seniors? That's too rude. Old thing, we don't even know where you came from. Hurry up and let our sect master go. Do you think I'll let you go just because you want me to? Elder Yuanqing stared at their left hand righteously and slowly closed it. The already small prison inside became even smaller. Feng Yunlong, who was trapped inside, screamed in pain. What are you doing? I'm reminding you what's going on. Old thing, cut the crap. If our sect leader stays, we'll take your life. You can leave on your own. Otherwise, I, Feng Beishan, will fight you to the death. The strange man looked around, but he didn't say what he wanted or what he wanted. It was as if he was stalling for time. Do you think you can do anything to me with your strength? Feng Beishan's group carefully moved forward. Release him. The strange man's expression changed, and he suddenly raised his left hand high up, scaring Feng Beishan and the others into stopping in their tracks. What do you want? Don't you want him? Then I'll give him to you. As he spoke, he threw the black ball in his hand forward. When Feng Beishan and the others saw this, they hurriedly rushed over to catch the sect master. However, the black thing that was thrown out suddenly flashed and disappeared. It turned out to be an illusion. The strange man took out Feng Yunlong's divine sense from his hand and stuffed it into his mouth. He opened his mouth and began to chew. How dare you? When Feng Beishan and the others saw this, their claws were about to crack, and they pounced over without any regard for their lives. However, the old man was not afraid at all. Seeing that they were coming up, he suddenly waved his sleeve and a thick black smoke sprayed forward. Feng Beishan's elders were instantly engulfed by the black smoke. When the black smoke disappeared, the strange man who had been standing there just now disappeared without a trace. The dozen or so elders of Feng Beishan had also disappeared without a trace. Below the platform, a short figure appeared. The strange man patted his stomach and burped in satisfaction. He slowly raised his hand, and countless bodies slowly rose from the dense forest below. The charred bodies, or the relatively intact corpses, all flew towards him. There were also tens of thousands of puppets that surrounded him. They stood under his feet and turned into a fiery red barrier. What are the sect master and the others doing? Something seems to have happened over there. What should we do? I wonder if this is related to the explosion in the south. Are we going to wait here? The people of the Cloud Sky sect were separated by a layer of light as they looked at the strange situation outside. They didn't know what was going on. The number of soldiers surrounding the area instantly decreased by a lot. Many of their puppets had been summoned away and gathered in the center, as if they were trying to gather their strength in one place. Moreover, the corpses of the dead clansmen below had all been summoned up. No one knew what he was doing. Suddenly, a large amount of black fog erupted from the strange person's body, continuously spreading out a black domain. It spread very quickly, directly covering an area of dozens of kilometers. No one dared to stop him. He was very skilled in his actions and was about to succeed. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt something strange as he expanded eastward. A pure white horsetail whisk kissed her hands and feet, dragging her to the east. The strange man appeared in the thick fog. His right hand and right foot were firmly tied with white silk threads. He took out the black awl and hacked down hard on the thread. However, it did not move at all. The strange man's eyes turned, and he actually took the black awl and slashed at his wrist, directly chopping off his hands and feet. 2 drops of thick black-red blood dripped down. So ruthless. Li Yuanqing stared at the guy in front of him with his mouth agape. It was just that the limbs that he had just cut off grew new tender limbs in a short time. The strange man stared at Huafeng with hatred in his eyes, his teeth clenched tightly. You old thing, I was wondering why such a meticulous plan would fail. So it turns out that I was targeted by you. Huafeng frowned as he looked at this fellow. Clearly, he was also an old acquaintance. I didn't expect you to still be alive after so many years. Not only am I alive, but I'm also alive and well. Are you not going to allow people to live? He. Let me tell you, Huafeng, in this world, only people like me live the most freely. How can a pedantic brain like yours understand? The strange man laughed strangely as he retreated. The black fog outside gradually became thinner. Since I saw you doing evil here again today, I can't let you do as you please. What a joke. The strange man grinned and laughed. You've said this more than once. What can you do to me? If you could kill me, you would have killed me long ago. Why would you stay until today? Huafeng didn't say anything and threw the horsetail whisk in his hand. The line of sight of the horsetail whisk, which had grown to 1,000 feet in size, also turned into tendrils, and those tens of thousands of tentacles directly wrapped around the black fog below. From the looks of it, it was bound to completely gather this black fog. Li Yuanqing saw that the black fog was gradually thinning, and the strange old man's body in the black fog was also gradually becoming blurry. Where are you escaping from? As Huafeng spoke, he struck out with his palm again. The palm power turned into a raging flame that directly burned towards the black fog. You can't keep me. The strange man laughed again, and his remaining body finally became completely transparent. The last bit of black fog was completely blown away by the strong wind, but there was nothing left in the sky. The strange man who had been standing there, as well as the thousands of corpses beside him, were now nowhere to be seen. He ran away? Li Yuanqing looked at the empty space in surprise. He had thought that Huafeng had already controlled the situation. He did not expect that strange old man to have such ability to escape so easily under Huafeng's eyes. Huafeng looked at the spot where that guy disappeared with a solemn expression and did not speak for a long time. Give me your life. They had just had a little time on their side when the people from the Divine Fire sect who were chasing after them immediately arrived. Venerable Green Spirit's eyes turned red. Wherever he went, everything that moved was destroyed by him. At this moment, he finally caught these 2 main targets, which aroused Venerable Green Spirit's excitement. The 2 of you ruined our plan. Watch how I'm going to deal with you today. As he spoke, he took out a soul-summoning sail and swung it into the air. In his imagination, there should be tens of thousands of puppets jumping out for him to command. However, nothing happened. He slowly regained some of his composure and looked around in shock. There was not a single puppet beside him. Where is the Divine Fire Sect's army? Venerable Green Spirit looked around and caught the remaining disciple of the Divine Fire Sect. Where are the golems? Venerable Green Spirit. Those puppets were all taken away by a strange person. How is that possible? These puppets are all puppets of my Divine Fire Sect. It's impossible for anyone to take them away. Venerable One, it's true. That person was still here just now, but he disappeared after a gust of wind blew. Nonsense, I'll kill you first. As soon as Venerable Green Spirit said that, he smashed the man's head into pieces with a palm strike. His soul was scattered, and he threw it down casually. Good. Since there are no reinforcements today, I'll take care of all of you. Go to hell. He raised his hands high up in the air, and a huge fire suddenly appeared in the sky. The fire was burning very vigorously, and the green flames kept spitting tongues of fire. It was as if there were thousands of demons mixed in. They were restless and wanted to tear Huafeng and Li Yuanqing into pieces. Go to hell. Venerable Azure Dragon shouted and spat out a mouthful of blood essence into the sky, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky. The fire in the sky burned even more vigorously. Those souls directly turned into corporeal things and rushed out of the sea of fire to kill Huafeng. Huafeng let out a cold harumph and waved the horsetail whisk in his right hand. A gust of wind formed out of thin air and blew the sea of fire to the point where it almost shattered. The sea of fire that filled the sky was extremely vigorous, and even the raindrops that fell from the sky were directly evaporated. Venerable Green Spirit's eyes were bloodshot. He poured his spiritual power into the sea of fire without any scruples, determined to kill the troublemaker just now. From now on, anyone who goes against my Divine Fire Sect will die. He stood in the air like a god of war, stepping on the raging sea of fire. Although his words were imposing, the situation was no longer what he had imagined. Just now, his Divine Fire Sect's generals were either dead or injured. Now, the situation was already hopeless. However, the Grand Heaven Master of the Divine Fire Sect didn't seem to be aware of the situation he was in. At this moment, in the boundless sea of fire, suddenly, it began to surge from the middle, and a bulge slowly appeared. The bulge continued to expand until it could no longer hold on and suddenly split open. From the crack, tens of thousands of rays of light shot out in all directions. The originally dark sky instantly became clear. Amidst the myriad rays of light, an old and a young figure tore through the air and directly drilled out of the sea of fire. A vortex slowly formed under Huafeng's feet. The surrounding large flames were continuously absorbed by this suction force. The large flames that filled the sky quickly shrank and finally disappeared under Huafeng's feet. Venerable Green Spirit was still arrogant and rude just now. After seeing this scene, they were stunned on the spot. You! He stared blankly at Huafeng. The redness in his eyes gradually faded, and he slowly regained his rationality. Huafeng flicked his horsetail whisk and placed it on his arm. He scolded coldly, "How dare you!" Using racing to bring disaster to the world. Now that the situation was gone, he still didn't surrender and actually tried to create another dispute. Venerable Green Spirit was afraid of the other party's powerful strength and could not help but take 2 steps back. However, considering how powerful their sect was, how could they retreat when they had the upper hand? Old man, my Divine Fire Sect has the sect master to guard it. We will definitely be able to capture all of you alive. How dare you? Your Divine Fire Sect has already lost its power, yet you still dare to spout nonsense here. Venerable Green Spirit turned his head and saw many people gathered around him. It turned out that Wang Taiyuan of the Cloud Sky Sect had arrived with his troops. The fierce battle outside had greatly reduced the strength of Feng Beishan and the Divine Fire Sect's 2 families. Zhou Yihe had turned against them and fought fiercely. Now, their strength had already been reduced by more than half. In addition, they had clearly seen that Feng Beishan's sect master had been slaughtered by a strange person just now. Now was the best time to make a move. These 2 clans had joined forces and massacred so many of their disciples. It was time to pay their debts. Wang Tianyuan's roar woke Venerable Green Spirit up completely. The red color in Green Spirit's eyes had completely faded. He thought of looking around, but he didn't know that there was no one left beside him. The disciples of the Divine Fire sect had all been captured and tied up at his feet. They knelt on the charred ground below, forming a large group. What was even more ridiculous was that although Fang Beishan's men had captured everyone from the Divine Fire sect, they still couldn't avoid the fate of being surrounded by the Cloud Sky sect. Although the situation was complicated, it was clear at a glance. Venerable Green Spirit had never expected such an outcome. They had come with such bold words that they would capture Wang Taiyuan alive and hang him on their Cloud Sky sect stone steel. However, they had never expected that the one who had ended up in such a miserable state was actually themselves. Moreover, the sect master had already disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he had gone. Could it be that he had already been killed by someone? What did you do? You killed my Divine Fire sect's generals. Venerable Green Spirit's lips trembled as he looked at the people surrounding him and shouted hoarsely. Huafeng swung his sleeves, and the temperament of an accomplished expert immediately appeared. Bastard! Flow is it now? You still don't know how to repent. You've colluded with that evil person and done many evil things. Now that the heavenly Tao has eyes, it has specially sent us to take you in. How dare you still be stubborn? You're talking nonsense. You damned old man. If it wasn't for the backlash on my square platform, I would have skinned you two alive. Humph! Huafeng snorted coldly and was too lazy to talk nonsense with him anymore. With a swing of his hand, a golden rope flew out from his sleeve. Seeing this, Venerable Green Spirit wanted to escape, but there was no room for him to escape at this time. A large golden bowl fell from above his head, trapping him in place. Venerable Green Spirit wanted to resist again, but the rope had already reached him. It spun around him a few times and tied him up like a big dumpling. Venerable Clear Spirit, whose spiritual energy was completely sealed, fell from the sky and landed on the scorched earth below. After the second head was completely controlled, the battle below became clear. Although there were still some people who had been eliminated and had not been captured yet, it did not affect the overall situation. Wang Taiyuan and the others came forward and bowed to Huafeng and Li Yuanqing. Thank you for your help, Senior. I hope my Cloud Sky sect can get through this crisis. The fire wind gently swung the horsetail whisk, and a light force dragged them all up. There's no need to be so polite. Huafeng smiled and said to them, I was asked to come here. If you want to thank me, you don't have to thank me. Just thank him. Wang Taiyuan raised his head and saw that there was no one standing beside Huafeng. There was clearly a young man just now. Huafeng smiled as he stroked his beard. Li Yuanqing didn't seem to want to show his face in front of this group of people. After dealing with Venerable Clear Spirit, Li Yuanqing said that he went to look for Wang Lan and then left in a hurry. Wang Taiyuan and the others hadn't noticed the young man standing beside him, but it was too late to look for him now. Senior, do you mean to say that today's matter is all thanks to that young hero? Not bad. Senior, can you tell me which sect that young hero is from and why he is so generous to come all the way here to help? Huafeng stroked his beard and smiled ambiguously. Think this is a matter between the two of you. Senior, do you mean that our Cloud Sky sect had a chance encounter with that young hero? Huafeng looked around and his gaze landed on Wang Susu, who was standing behind Wang Taiyuan. Sect Master Wang, you might as well ask your daughter. Senior, please speak clearly. Wang Taiyuan still wanted to ask, but Huafeng had already said so much, so he didn't want to say anything more. He directly flew away on a cloud. The people from the Cloud Sky sect wanted to keep him, but this old senior came and left in a hurry. He was really mysterious and they couldn't understand him at all. Sect Master, what is this old senior trying to do? Then how should we deal with the enemy troops below? Wang Taiyuan didn't think much about these things now. All his thoughts were on that mysterious young hero. What did that kid have to do with his own sect? Wang Taiyuan couldn't help but look at his daughter beside him. Wang Susu was also dumbfounded. She didn't know why that old senior had suddenly dragged her into the conversation. Father. Susu, have you seen that young hero just now? I have never met him. Think about it again. Have you already forgotten that you met him somewhere? Father, your daughter has always had a photographic memory. As long as she has seen it, she will definitely not forget it. I don't know which family's young master he is from. I didn't pay attention to him. Perhaps he has seen me before. Wang Taiyuan wanted to figure out the cause and effect of this matter. The more he thought about it, the stranger it became. The old senior clearly couldn't explain it clearly, but when his eyes turned to Wang Susu, he said something like that. Wasn't it obvious that he wanted to matchmake a marriage between the two young people? Wang Taiyuan's eyes lit up as he thought of this. He was also thinking about his daughter. Daddy, what are you doing? Wang Susu was at a loss as to what to do after seeing her father's eyes change. Wang Taiyuan smiled and gently took Wang Susu's hand. He said in a father's tone, Susu, you're not young anymore. I've been delaying your matters. Daddy, what are you talking about? Her daughter only wanted to cultivate and had no other thoughts. Hey, how can a girl think like that? You must know that women have always been weak in cultivation. If you can have a suitable husband by your side, I can also be at ease. Father, what do you mean? Wang Susu blushed. Looking at Wang Taiyuan, Li Yuanqing's appearance could not help but appear in her mind again. You don't even know where that person came from or his name, and you want to throw your daughter out? You can't say that. Look at how powerful his old senior is. Moreover, he was so generous, helping me with everything he had, but he didn't ask for anything at all. So what if he had such boldness? Ridiculous. Susu, don't be angry. Your father is also having a good discussion with you. Your husband feels that this young master has an extraordinary background and is not weak either. He is quite compatible with you. Think about it carefully. Miss, old master is right. That young master just now has starry eyes and sword eyes. He has an extraordinary bearing and is obviously someone who will achieve great things. Although that young master didn't make a move, he unintentionally gave off an unfathomable feeling. Presumably, his strength must be extraordinary. I just don't know where this old senior is from. It would be much better if I could know his background. Enough. Wang Susu's face turned red as she was being discussed by a group of elders in front of her. If you want to dual cultivate, go by yourself. After saying this, she ran back to the sect. Wang Taiyuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Wang Susu's back. What do you mean? Sect master, I think this is indeed a good marriage. If we can find the whereabouts of that senior and that young hero, this old man is willing to personally come and propose marriage. Sixth uncle, I'll have to trouble you then. It's enough that this old man can do some more things for the sect. The people of the Cloud Sky sect were discussing the marriage between Wang Susu and Li Yuanqing, but Li Yuanqing knew nothing about it. After he saw that the situation had calmed down, he secretly left. Just now, in order to rush over to support the Cloud Sky sect, he even put Wang Lan aside. This old senior had done his best for this matter. Li Yuanqing could not let Wang Lan face the remaining pursuers alone. Wang Lan had been chasing after a bunch of people. He had been running with those guys and had unknowingly traveled 1,000 miles. Li Yuanqing found a valley. At this moment, the valley was already filled with fog. He could not see his fingers in front of him and could not see anything. He landed in the valley and searched left and right. Wang Lan's aura was here, and there were signs of a battle in the valley. There were also powerful energy fluctuations. This fog was very thick, and it had a certain effect of isolating spiritual power. Li Yuanqing's spiritual sense could not probe too far in here, so he could only slowly go down from the side path. He was walking through the fog in front of him when a path suddenly opened up. A crazy old man suddenly crawled out from within. Wang Lan stared at Li Yuanqing with her eyes wide open. Kid, why are you here? Senior. Just as Li Yuanqing was about to speak, he suddenly noticed that there were a few heads in each of Wang Lan's heads. The heads were still round with their eyes open, and their mouths were still slowly squirming, but they seemed to have completely lost consciousness. Wang Lan casually shook the heads and said to Li Yuanqing proudly, These guys are too insensible. I originally wanted to play with them for a while longer, but thinking about how there are still so many troublesome things over there, I might as well get rid of them all. Senior, you really have good methods. Brat, don't try to kill this old man. Isn't the Cloud Sky sect still surrounded? Where did that old fellow Huafeng go? If I waited until you were done cleaning up before going over, I'm afraid their cloud sky sect would have been destroyed several times already. The person who spoke was Huofeng. Huofeng waved his sleeve, and the clouds and mist in the valley were slowly blown away. It gradually became clear. There were a few corpses lying in the small valley, all of which were in irregular pieces, as if they had been blown up by a powerful bomb. Broken corpses were hanging everywhere, and there was even half an arm under Li Yuanqing's feet. You're still so rough. It's been so many years, but you haven't changed at all. What's wrong? I see that you're still the same as before. You don't hold back at all. Li Yuanqing and the other two left the valley and landed on a small hill. Along the way, it was Huofeng and Wang Lan bickering. There was no place for Li Yuanqing to interrupt, but now, Huofeng finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Little friend, do you still remember the agreement between the two of us? Reporting to Senior, Junior naturally remembers. Since you still remember that matter, it's easy to handle. This heavenly soul incense isn't a treasure that's easy to find. I can give you more time. How long do you need to bring the heavenly soul incense to me? This heavenly soul incense is tens of thousands of miles away, and there are many dangers there. I'm afraid it will be very difficult to obtain it in a short period of time. Of course I know that. Huofeng sat on a huge rock and calmly circulated his cultivation technique. I've waited for hundreds of years. I don't mind waiting for a while more. Hearing their words, Wang Lan immediately became a little anxious. That won't do. If you leave, what will happen to my gigantic spirit fruit? What giant spirit fruit? Huofeng's sharp eyes caught the key information, and his sharp eyes moved back and forth between the two of them. It has nothing to do with you. Wang Lan waved her hand and walked to Li Yuanqing's side. I'm telling you, you're not allowed to go anywhere before I get a thorough grasp of that fruit. But I've already promised Senior Huofeng that I'll help him find the heavenly soul incense. Can you wake up? Wang Lan said unhappily. That old fellow has been searching for thousands of years, but he still hasn't found it. With your little strength, where are you going to find it? Even if you find it, can you bring it back? Do you have that ability? Huofeng's originally calm face now became somewhat unhappy. He said coldly, That's easy to say. As long as you really know where the heavenly soul incense is, I can go with you. That won't do. Wang Lan stood in the middle and said angrily, It's been so many years, and I've finally found such a violent material. I must figure it out. You're not allowed to go anywhere before I figure it out. So you're going to snatch it from me? Huofeng looked at Wang Lan coldly. Wang Lan did not show any weakness. She glared back and said confidently, Get this straight first. Everything is based on first come, first serve. You still want to take advantage of me? Seeing this, Huofeng lifted his horsetail whisk and made a stance as if he was about to make a move. Wang Lan didn't back down either. She waved her hands, and golden flames appeared on her body. Old thing, I haven't fought you for hundreds of years. This time, I have to fight to my heart's content. If I didn't pity you back then, I would have burned you to death. Why are you so arrogant today? Although Huofeng looked serious, the two sides were at daggers drawn, and every word they spoke was harsh. Good fellow, back then, I was only slightly defeated by you because I was disturbed by you. Do you really think you can defeat me? Why don't you show me your ability first? After these hundreds of years, have you improved? As Wang Lan spoke, the golden flames on her body transformed into a set of golden armor. In his hand, he was holding a flaming spear that was swimming back and forth. I'll let you never have the chance to be so arrogant again. The two of them were about to clash when Li Yuanqing suddenly stood up. Seniors, calm down. Junior, move aside. This is a matter between the two of us. It has nothing to do with you. Don't hurt yourself later. Wang Lan also said, That's right. This has nothing to do with you. Hurry up and step aside. I'm still waiting for you to bring me the fruits. Li Yuanqing felt dizzy from these two old seniors. These two old foes really did not forget to be competitive even at this age. Two seniors, everyone is on the same front. Why are you suddenly fighting now? Wang Lan's body was burning with raging flames. She looked at Huofeng and said, Who's on the same side as him? He's here for real benefits and has evil intentions. I know this person's thoughts very well. Huafeng sneered and retorted, don't pretend to be high and mighty in front of me. Ever since you were young, you've been greedy for small profits and forgot about the greater good. For the sake of your little alchemy skills, what haven't you done? That's still much better than you killing your weekend partner. You. Li Yuanqing's heart thumped. When he heard Wang Lan say this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. As expected, Huafeng no longer talked glibly this time. He went up and fiercely threw the horsetail whisk out. Although Wang Lan was shouting happily just now, he was also thinking about it. Seeing that the violent energy wave was already in front of him, he did not dare to be careless and hurriedly dodged to the side. The energy wave from the horsetail whisk struck the empty space where Wang Lan had been standing. A long and narrow ravine was instantly formed on the empty mountain. This mountain was not big to begin with, but half of it was split open. The crack was very smooth. Li Yuanqing looked at the narrow gap with lingering fear. Fortunately, he did not get involved in their quarrel just now. This guy was really ruthless. Good. You old brat. You actually hit me so hard. You think I don't dare to attack you, right? Wang Lan shouted loudly, and the spear in her hand suddenly burst out a large ball of flames. The flames twisted in the air and spun around before condensing on the spearhead again. Wang Lan stepped on a ball of flame and dragged him along. Like a cannonball, she instantly rushed out and appeared in front of Huafeng. A blazing flame instantly exploded in front of Huafeng's face. All the energy that escaped was directed at Huafeng. Huafeng threw out his horsetail whisk and pointed forward with his right hand. All the hairs on the horsetail whisk stood up, forming a defensive shield in front of him. At that moment, their powers collided heavily. The intense explosion shockwave turned everything within 1,000 feet of them into dust. Li Yuanqing took a step forward and retreated to the back early. He hid there and watched the two of them fight endlessly. After the intense light silently dissipated, Huafeng, who was originally sitting there, also disappeared. The small hill that was originally standing there had now disappeared without a trace. It had become a large open space with a large area of ruins below. All the rocks had been destroyed in the previous collision. Huafeng stood in midair a few hundred feet away from the center of the explosion, his eyes staring straight at Wang Lan. Old thing, I didn't expect you to react so well at your age. Humph. A lunatic like you is a scourge in the world. I should have taken you in for my master back then. Ha ha ha. Wang Lan suddenly raised his head and laughed maniacally. If you had the ability, why didn't you kill me earlier? Why did you wait until now? Now that you and I are considered fellow disciples, I just don't want to fight. That sounds nice. The two of them were digging up old scores here, and it seemed like they had quite a lot of scores. Li Yuanqing was waiting at the side. He didn't know when it would end. He couldn't help but stand up.
Senor.
Junior, if you have anything to say it after today. I have to tear this person into pieces. Li Yuanqing looked at Huafeng and said, Senior Huafeng, what you want is nothing more than the heavenly soul incense. That's right. He then looked at Wang Lan and said, what Senior Wang Lan wants is nothing more than that giant spirit fruit. Wang Lan turned her head and stared at him as she corrected him. No, I see that you have a lot of other goods on hand. I want them all. Junior has an idea. I wonder if Senior Huafeng can accept it? Tell me. Junior does indeed have the location of the heavenly soul incense, but Junior does not know where this map points to. If I want to find it, I'm afraid it will take some time. What did you say? Huafeng stared at Li Yuanqing. He did not expect Li Yuanqing to be able to take out the treasure so quickly. He had wanted to try his luck. He did not expect that this guy would really have the whereabouts of the heavenly soul incense. Li Yuanqing did not understand the meaning behind his words, so he explained, Senior, don't misunderstand. I do have a map of the heavenly soul incense, but I've never seen the location marked on the map. Since Senior has already helped me, I'm willing to hand over this map with both hands. When Huafeng heard this, he didn't have time to argue with Wang Lan anymore. He directly stepped forward and placed his hand in front of Li Yuanqing. Hurry up and give it to me. As long as you give me the map, the grudge between us will be written off.
No.
While the two of them were trading, a person suddenly appeared beside them. Wang Lan stood in front of Yuanqing Li and held his hand. How precious is the heavenly soul incense. You old brat. You didn't even put in any effort and you want to get it? Aren't you letting yourself off too easily? This is a deal between me and my little friend. What does it have to do with you? Get out of the way. Don't force me to make a move. You're very wrong. He's my disciple and I'm his master. If you want to lie to my disciple, then you're trying to lie to me. I hate it when people lie to me. Wang Lan stood there righteously, staring straight at Huafeng. You old fellow, you are so fickle. When did he become your disciple? Wang Lan grabbed Li Yuanqing's hand and winked at him. Didn't you say you wanted to be an alchemist? That's right. I want to join the pill house. Leave this matter to me. I'm neither too young nor too big in the pill house. I'm also a deacon. As long as you address me as master, then the matter of entering the pavilion will be a piece of cake. Really? Of course. Li Yuanqing did not expect the two of them to quarrel with each other here and even benefit himself. Originally, Wang Lan had said that he had already explained everything, but how could it be so simple? If he was really willing to take on this responsibility, it would not hurt to call him master. Don't listen to his nonsense. Huafeng immediately became anxious. What's so good about the pill house? Listen to me and join the fire refining pavilion. As long as you are willing to call me master, I guarantee that you will officially receive the token of the fire refining pavilion in a month. Huafeng took out a purple token and showed it off. His identity as a deacon of the pill house is useless. No matter what, I'm still an elder. With such an identity, you can do whatever you want in the immortal world from now on. Don't listen to him. This old man has wasted so many years for his dual cultivation partner. No one knows him. No matter how bad I am as an elder, I am still much stronger than you, a deacon. The two of them argued with each other and belittled each other. It was difficult to determine who was stronger. Just as Li Yuanqing was hesitating, Wang Lan suddenly flew into a rage out of humiliation and took out a few pieces of tattered yellow paper. Li Yuanqing's eyes lit up when he saw this. Although these princes looked ragged, they were the things that Wang Lan had recorded the pill formula on. Brat, as long as you acknowledge me as your master and give me the map of the heavenly soul incense, I will teach you these secret methods now. Huafeng's eyes widened in shock when he saw him like this. You old brat, in order to ruin my good deed, you actually went to such lengths. Huafeng didn't back down either. He pressed his hand on his dantian and took out a light purple flame. Brat, do you recognize this item? This is an earth-rank sacred flame among the sacred flames of heaven and earth. It took me hundreds of years to cultivate such a rare flame. As long as you concentrate on cultivating it, it will grow with you and release endless power in time. Wang Lan did not expect Huafeng to take out such a treasure. She was dumbfounded. Li Yuanqing hesitated between the two of them. Good, you damn old man. You actually spent so much money. I was wrong about you. As soon as Wang Lan finished speaking, Li Yuanqing suddenly stood on Huafeng's side. Brat, you sure are fast. Wang Lan looked at Li Yuanqing coldly as if he was a traitor. Huafeng handed the flame over to Li Yuanqing.
Li Yuanqing suddenly rejected Huafeng.
Senior, the map of this heavenly soul incense conquest was something that we had discussed a long time ago. I can't take your flame, so you can take this map. Li Yuanqing made a copy of the map in the empty spot in his mind and carved it into a jade pendant before handing it to Huafeng. Huafeng stood rooted to the ground, speechless. Li Yuanqing walked up to Wang Lan and lowered his head. Senior, I already made a promise to Senior Huafeng, so I can't give you the map of the heavenly soul incense. Li Yuanqing thought that Wang Lan would be very angry, but he didn't show any expression. You're really a prodigal. You gave me such a precious thing just like that. Everpeace Mountain Range, Huafeng's cave abode. Huafeng sat alone on the main seat, while Wang Lan sat beside Li Yuanqing. The two of them were tasting spiritual tea. There are many things that you don't know. There used to be only one continent in this world, and it was surrounded by the sea race. Wang Lan explained to Li Yuanqing as she sipped her tea. Later on, the world divided the entire continent into 5 parts. They were the East, West, South, and North continents. The largest continent left in the middle was the Central Plains continent. Li Yuanqing had never heard anyone mention this before. It was also because the land under their feet was too vast that ordinary cultivators generally did not have the opportunity to cross to another continent. The map that Li Yuanqing gave Huafeng showed that the location was on the Central Plains. In other words, if Huafeng wanted to obtain the heavenly soul incense, he would have to make a trip to the Central Plains, which was hundreds of thousands of miles away. Senior Huafeng, why are you so obsessed with the heavenly soul incense? Li Yuanqing asked in confusion. He's already been searching for thousands of years. Is that spirit body really that important to him? This is all in his past, so I can't say for sure. Wang Lan tidied his beard and pointed at the horsetail whisk in Huafeng's hand. You know that his horsetail whisk is only one step away. If he can fuse his spirit body with his magic treasure, he will put it down. Li Yuanqing originally thought that giving this map to him would be a good thing. However, he did not expect that the journey between them would be so long. Moreover, from what they said, the Central Plains continent was also extraordinary. It was likely that it would be filled with difficulties at that time. Wang Lan looked at Huafeng, and there was a hint of worry between his brows. It seems that Senior is also worried. He has already been guarding for so many years. His physical condition is no longer as good as before. Now that he has to go to the Central Plains, there are many dangers on the way. As Wang Lan was speaking, Huafeng suddenly opened his eyes. His tiredness was swept away, and he was suddenly invigorated. His face was even redder. He lightly jumped down from the couch and came to the two of them. There's no need for you to say anything else. I'll leave tomorrow. Huafeng looked like he was looking forward to the upcoming journey. After waiting here for a few hundred years, I finally have such good news. I asked some of my close friends just now, and they can provide me with some information. He believed that he could greatly shorten the time. Senior, were you thinking about what to do just now? I thought Senior didn't plan to go. Why wouldn't I? Huafeng's eyes widened in shock. I've been waiting here for so many years. It's not easy to get such a good opportunity. I have to go no matter what. However, his body was already old, so he should still think of some detailed plans. Wang Lan looked at Huafeng with a rare smile. I thought you were finally afraid this time. I didn't expect you to still have that bad temper. Why? Do you have to care about my temper? Huafeng retorted. That's none of my business. You probably likes you for this. Wang Lan suddenly turned around and nodded gently. Finally, she said to her longtime enemy, if you need any pills, you can tell me. I still have some on hand. Io, you miser. When did you become so generous? Wang Lan didn't respond to him. She waved her hand and was about to leave with Li Yuanqing. Let's go. We're done here. Li Yuanqing didn't understand why he had followed Wang Lan here. He had wanted to return to the sect directly, but he had been away for too long. Although he had a wood spirit clone guarding the sect, he still wanted to return as soon as possible. However, under Wang Lan's strong request, he followed her here. In the end, he only stayed here for half a day before leaving. Li Yuanqing didn't dare to be negligent and wanted to leave with Wang Lanyi. Huafeng suddenly stopped him. Little friend. Wang Lan nodded at Li Yuanqing and left. Li Yuanqing turned around and looked at Huafeng. Huafeng looked at Li Yuanqing with gratitude and said, I didn't expect you to have such a precious treasure on you. When you said that, I thought you were lying. Then why did Senior agree to my request? Li Yuanqing asked in confusion. Huafeng laughed heartily and said, I've been guarding this place for hundreds of years. Now that there was an opportunity to punish evil and promote good in front of me, I felt resentful in my heart, but I didn't have a suitable reason. It just so happens that you were able to notice me so keenly. That horsetail whisk has such a problem. Huafeng blocked Li Yuanqing and didn't let him speak. I don't care how you know. Maybe that old man told you secretly, but you gave me a good reason. That's enough. Li Yuanqing had thought that this old man was a sharp and mean person. He did not expect him to have such thoughts. Thus, the old senior had already made plans from the very beginning. Of course, the corpse refining technique has always been rejected by people. Now that it has reappeared in the martial world, someone will naturally have to stand up and kill it. Senior's courage and bravery, Junior admires you greatly. Huafeng helped Li Yuanqing up and gently rubbed his hand. A small purple flame immediately appeared in Li Yuanqing's hand. Within the purple flame, there was a very light-colored pill. Senior, what is this? This is the fire seed of my purple smoke. Although I spent a lot of effort cultivating it, it's useless in my hands. If you can take it, it can be considered as finding a home for it. Li Yuanqing hesitantly looked at the fire seed in his hand and was about to refuse when Huafeng immediately said, "Could it be that little friend doesn't like my purple smoke, earth and fire? Although my flame hasn't reached heaven grade, its quality is quite extraordinary. It's enough for you to take it out. Senior, please don't misunderstand. Junior doesn't dare to have any profane intentions." Li Yuanqing explained, "It's just that this gift is too expensive. This junior can't afford it." "What do you mean valuable? This is what we agreed on. Besides, this fire seed is useless to me. You don't want me to take it with me, do you?" Li Yuanqing fell silent. If he said he didn't want it, he would definitely be lying. What he needed the most now was to cultivate his own fire seed. In this way, his alchemy or artifact refinement skills would improve by leaps and bounds. A good fire could greatly improve one's pill refining technique. However, this reward came too suddenly. He was not prepared at all, which made him very afraid. "May I know what Senior needs?" Although the nets weren't that strong, they still had some things on them that could satisfy their seniors. "Just keep it well. There's no use for me to keep this, so I'll give it to you." Huafeng took out a purple gold token. His name was written on the plaque, and the words "Fire Refining Pavilion" were carved on the back of the plaque. While Li Yuanqing was looking at it, Huafeng casually said to him, "I still have some things left in the Fire Refining Pavilion. You can use them as you wish. If they are not suitable for you, you can exchange them. I reckon you'll be able to exchange it for quite a number of suitable materials. Take it as my support for you." Senior's gift is truly too precious. Li Yuanqing did not expect Huafeng to give him his badge in the Fire Refining Pavilion. This look of wanting to make arrangements for his funeral made Li Yuanqing feel a little uncomfortable in his heart. He hesitated for a moment, then suddenly flipped his wrist and a narrow-mouthed bottle appeared in his palm. The narrow-mouthed bottle was tightly sealed and stood there quietly. It did not seem to have any special fluctuations. "Senior, this item is called Divine Source Water." Huafeng took the bottle and asked Li Yuanqing if he could open it. Li Yuanqing naturally agreed generously. Huafeng gently took out a drop of water from the box. The drop of water fell on his hand, and it looked like a crystal-clear pearl. However, he couldn't tell what was special about it. It was just like ordinary water. Divine Source Water? Huafeng shook his head slightly. "I've never heard of it. What's its effect?" Li Yuanqing pointed at the drop of water on Huafeng's hand and said, "The effects of this divine source water are very unique. As long as Senior has a few drops of it mixed in the water, it can water an entire field of medicinal herbs. So it's a kind of medicinal herb. What will happen after you pour it?" Spiritual light flashed beside Li Yuanqing, and a huge spiritual fruit appeared there. Huafeng was shocked by the giant fruit and didn't react for a while. "What is this? Isn't this a giant spirit fruit? Why was there such a huge spirit fruit in this world?" The appearance of this fruit had truly subverted Huafeng's worldview. Wang Lan was careful to keep it a secret and hadn't told him about the giant spiritual fruit yet. Li Yuanqing bluntly told Huafeng, "This fruit is called the giant spirit fruit. Its plant was originally a very ordinary fire spirit fruit. However, after watering it with divine source water, the fire spirit fruit would grow like this." "What?" This really shocked Huafeng. "Are you saying that as long as these few drops are used to water an entire field, the fire spirit fruits in the entire field will grow like this?" "That's right. How can this be? As far as I know, a normal field can usually grow thousands of fire spirit fruits. Senior, if you want to know if the effect is real or fake, you can try it yourself." Only then did Li Yuanqing put away the fire seed with ease. Finally, he looked at Huafeng solemnly. "Thank you for the fire, Senior. I will definitely cultivate well and raise Xian." All right. The fire wind line's attention was completely attracted by the divine source water. Li Yuanqing decided to keep the gigantic spirit fruit. If Wang Lan knew about this, she would probably vomit blood from anger. After leaving Huafeng's cave, Wang Lan was waiting at the foot of the mountain. Good boy. You've been here for so long. Wang Lan sized up Li Yuanqing and asked, What good stuff did that old fellow give you? Take it out and take a look. This is a secret between me and Elder Huafeng. I can't tell anyone. Li Yuanqing shook his head. What secret? When Wang Lan heard this, she was anxious to blow her beard. Kid, you don't have any idea, do you? Just now, you were so anxious to run away. If I didn't insist on bringing you here, would you have gotten this benefit? That also can't be said to be a word. I think your wings have hardened, right? Wang Lan glared at Li Yuanqing. I think you're honest, so I wanted to give you some benefits. In the end, you kicked me, your master, to the side. You're too heartless. When did Senior become my master? What are you talking about? You've gotten so many benefits from Huafeng, and now you want to draw a line between us, right? I'm telling you, no way. Wang Lan pulled Li Yuanqing's arm, and the two of them turned into a stream of light and left Changping Mountain Range. In the end, Li Yuanqing pretended that he couldn't stand Wang Lan's coaxing and pestering and told her about Xian and the token. When Wang Lan heard that Huafeng had taken out the token, she was so shocked that she could not close her mouth. He still had to make a fuss and ask Li Yuanqing to hand the token over to his so-called master for safekeeping. It didn't take long for the two of them to arrive at the medicinal field of the Martial Essence sect. They returned to the familiar 9 elements medicinal garden. Li Yuanqing felt as if it was a lifetime ago. Although he had only left for a few days, many things had happened during this period. He did not expect that he would follow the 2 old seniors and destroy the Divine Fire Sect conspiracy together. If you don't want to give me the token, then what about the fruit? When would he have the time to ask that old immortal when the next batch of fruits would be available? Wang Lan was furious. She had wanted to get some money from Li Yuanqing, but she did not expect Li Yuanqing to be so meticulous despite his young age. He was not intimidated at all. Right now, he could only think of ways to obtain the gigantic spirit fruit. As the two of them were talking, a familiar figure suddenly walked out of the herb garden. Zhao Baoyun was cursing something when he saw Wang Lan when he walked out of the door. He was shocked. Li Yuanqing was already on guard and carefully went to the side. While Zhao Baoyun was still in a daze, he quietly sneaked up behind him. What are you doing? Wang Lan saw that Li Yuanqing was acting strangely and was very cooperative. She glared at Zhao Baoyun's imposing manner, giving Zhao Baoyun a fright. Zhao Baoyun had been furious just now, but now he had turned into a coward and looked at Wang Lan timidly. Senior, why are you here? What do you mean, why am I here? Do I need to inform you where I'm going? Wang Lan's words, coupled with his fierce appearance, scared Zhao Baoyun so much that he almost peed his pants. Senior, please don't misunderstand. I didn't mean it that way. Then what do you mean? At this moment, Li Yuanqing suddenly stood up and said to Wang Lan, Senior, are you looking for me? Zhao Baoyun had given the wood spirit clone a good scolding just now. Li Yuanqing and the wood spirit clone were telepathically connected, so he had heard everything clearly. The main reason was that Li Yuanqing hadn't returned for the past few days, so he had asked the wood spirit clone to take care of the herbal field mechanically. However, the wood spirit clone's method of taking care of him wasn't very meticulous. These few days, the herbs had been growing very slowly. They had already lost a lot of them a few days ago, which made Zhao Baoyun a little anxious. Today, he had come to curse to his heart's content, but he did not expect to bump into Wang Lan as soon as he went out. The two of them seemed to be old acquaintances and had a good relationship. Wang Lan narrowed her eyes and looked at Zhao Baoyun. This disciple of mine hasn't caused you any trouble during this period of time, right? Disciple? Zhao Baoyun was stunned on the spot. When did they make progress? What's wrong? Didn't he tell you? Wang Lan called Li Yuanqing to her side. Little Li is a talented child. I can see that he is very talented in alchemy, so I plan to keep him by my side and teach him well in the future. It's better for him to train here for a few years. Zhao Baoyun gulped and felt his forehead sweating profusely. This, Senior, you, he stuttered, but he could not understand what he was saying. Since Li Yuanqing had become his disciple, what would happen if Li Yuanqing repeated what he had said to his master? Li Yuanqing could tell what he was thinking at a glance. He smiled at Wang Lan and said, Master, Don't worry. Senior brother Zhao has been taking good care of me ever since I came here. He's a very good person and has never done anything to bully others. Don't worry. Zhao Baoyun looked at Li Yuanqing with gratitude, as if he was looking at his own father. I knew it. Junior brother, we are the closest. Zhao Baoyun grabbed Li Yuanqing's hand. Junior brother, if you need anything in the future, feel free to call me. As long as senior brother can help me, I will not hesitate. Then I'll thank senior brother here in advance. All right. Zhao Baoyun was relieved that he had escaped, but he could not stay here any longer. He said goodbye. If there's nothing else, senior, I'll take my leave first. The 3 Yuan herb garden still needed reinforcements. What did you say? Li Yuanqing looked at him blankly. There's some trouble at the San Yuan herbal field. Zhao Baoyun gloomily said. Nothing happened when I was guarding this area, but who knew that Wang Lin's hands were dirty? He secretly planted his own medicinal herbs in the sect and even went to trade with the people of the Divine Fire sect. If not for the incident at the Divine Fire sect, the sect would not have thought of investigating. Li Yuanqing's heart skipped a beat. He was relying on Wang Lin to stabilize the supply of fire spirit fruits. He couldn't just let it go. Senior brother, where's Wang Lin now? How could he have a good time then? Zhao Baoyun grinned. He dared to steal spirit energy wantonly from the sect's spirit or vein. He definitely won't let him off. Don't worry. I see. Now that he has been captured and brought to the punishment hall, he will probably suffer a lot. I even went over to help them count the medicinal herbs. That kid's brain was quite good. He dug a cave under the hillside and planted a large area of medicinal herbs. That's really amazing. Li Yuanqing originally thought that his business of growing medicinal herbs would flourish day by day, but who would have thought that he would encounter such a thing just as he started? Now that Wang Lin was arrested by the sect, what should he do? He still had so much divine source water on him. He felt terrible without using it for a day. Junior brother, is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. No worries, thank you for your guidance, senior brother. Li Yuanqing cupped his hands at Zhao Baoyun. This made Zhao Baoyun extremely anxious. Junior brother, we are as close as brothers, so there is no need to be so polite. In the future, if you have anything to ask senior brother will definitely tell you everything. Thank you, senior brother. Senior, I'll be leaving first. Wang Lan did not have a good expression on her face. She casually said, get lost. Zhao Baoyun felt as if he had been pardoned. Many thanks, senior. Wang Lan also noticed the change in Li Yuanqing's expression. After Zhao Baoyun left, she asked, I can see that you seem to have something on your mind. Since I call myself your master, it's not impossible for me to help you fulfill a wish or solve some small problems. After Wang Lan finished speaking, she placed her sleeves behind her back and waited calmly. Senior, what conditions do you want to raise again? How can you say that?
Wang Lan cao ghét Lai Ti.
I want to see how useful those gigantic spirit fruits can be for you. Wouldn't it be great if you could exchange them with me earlier? If I want a cave dwelling that can grow medicinal herbs, do you have a way? Why don't you have any manners? How do you address me as your master? If you have a way, I will naturally call you master. Deal? Deal.
Wang Lan smiled smoothly.
She took out a token and threw it to Li Yuanqing. Not far from where I live, there is a piece of land with strong spiritual power. I have cultivated it earlier, but I haven't used it yet. Are you that generous? Why are you still calling me that? Have you forgotten what you said just now? Wang Lan glared at him with dissatisfaction. Li Yuanqing's mouth moved, and he called out unwillingly, Master. Wang Lan was very pleased with this address and smiled proudly. Why didn't you do this earlier? I have the most gentle personality, and I won't mistreat you if you become my disciple. Why do you still look so unwilling? Li Yuanqing's face twitched as he complained, Aren't you famous for your bad temper? That's an outsider. Wang Lan corrected him. When I face those outsiders, my temper is indeed a little bad. However, you are my disciple, so the two of us can naturally talk things out. Li Yuanqing thought about it and suddenly pointed at Wang Lan's chest. Master, I remember that you have a pill book nailed together. I wonder when I can take it out and let my disciple take a look? Wang Lan had always looked like she didn't care much about anything, But when he mentioned those pill formulas, he immediately became anxious. He hurriedly covered his chest and said nervously, "You little kid, you just became my disciple. In less than a day, you want to steal all of my master's ability to look at my family background. How can it be so good?" All of a sudden, a palm-sized little person crawled out of the herb garden and slipped into Li Yuanqing's sleeve. However, Wang Lan was an astute person. In just a short while, she was caught red-handed by him. What was that just now? Nothing, just a puppet. Impossible. How could the spiritual energy on a puppet be so dense? Where did you get it, kid? I picked it up by chance.
Li Yuanqing en suarat perfumturili.
No, take it out and let me see. Wang Lan stretched out her hand to ask for it, but Li Yuanqing jumped behind her. As a master, how can you snatch something from your disciple? Isn't this too inappropriate? Wang Lan glared at Li Yuanqing sternly and warned, "That's not an ordinary thing. Hurry up and take it out for me to take a look. If it's a problematic treasure, it will only harm you. This thing was given to me by an old senior. There won't be any problems." Naturally, Li Yuanqing couldn't explain the origins of his wood spirit clone, so he made up an excuse. Old senior? Wang Lan muttered in her heart. A person who could grow the gigantic spiritual fruit could also refine a puppet of such a level. Li Yuanqing was probably referring to the same old senior. However, who in this world could have such powerful strength? Wang Lan had never seen such a big shot before, so she couldn't figure it out for a while. However, he suddenly remembered that the map that Li Yuanqing took out came from the Central Plains. Could it be? Wang Lan's heart skipped a beat, and she could not help but widen her eyes. "Master, what's wrong?" Li Yuanqing knew that this old fellow was too quick-witted. If he continued to be with him, he was afraid that he would give himself away sooner or later, so he wanted to find an opportunity to slip away. "If there's nothing else, I'll leave first." Wang Lan had a rough idea after thinking about it just now. Although he was usually careless, if he really encountered something, he would be more stingy than anyone else. He laughed and took out the wine gourd and waved it in front of his face. "Look, I haven't been back for a few days. The wine in the gourd is gone. Forget it. Forget it. Go back and rest well today. I'll have a good drink." Li Yuanqing secretly heaved a sigh of relief. In the time it took for him to be stunned, Wang Lan had already disappeared without a trace. Li Yuanqing also returned to the herb garden by himself. However, he had not returned for a few days, so there was not much change. The main reason was that the wood spirit clone had indeed taken less care of the medicinal herbs when it was around, which had delayed the overall growth of the medicinal herbs. This was also the reason why Zhao Baoyan ran over and cursed when he saw the situation. However, the biggest problem right now was whether Wang Lin would expose his own secrets after he was captured. At that time, wouldn't he be in more trouble? Li Yuanqing's head hurt even more when he thought about this. Anyway, Wang Lan was standing behind him. So what if the matter of him destroying some medicinal herbs was exposed? Thinking of this, Li Yuanqing took out that small flame in his heart again. This Xian. He had to refine the fire seed into his body as soon as possible because it would take a certain amount of time to nurture it. Li Yuanqing turned around and returned to his domain space. In the domain space, a large pile of vines grew into a small hill. Lying on the small hill was a huge fox. At the foot of the mountain, 2 men in their 20s were sleeping soundly on the ground. This was what Wang Lan had said. After they consumed the divine source water, their bodies could not help but grow crazily. Moreover, after they ate more, their bodies grew even more. More importantly, while their bodies were expanding crazily, their control over their bodies did not increase, causing them to be increasingly unable to control their bodies. Although under the promotion of the medicinal effects, the few of them had more or less increased by several levels. Li Yuanqing had put this matter on hold for the time being, but seeing that they were getting more and more drowsy, it seemed that the overall situation had become more and more strange. Li Yuanqing stood on Hu Juzhou's head. As the body grew bigger and bigger, Hu Juzhou's divine sense became weaker and weaker. Master Myriad Mushroom. Li Yuanqing kept mumbling about this name. If it was really as Wang Lan said, then he really had to make a trip to the legendary mountain range to find this mysterious old man. He took out a dark blue wooden stick and gently floated it in his palm. The small purple flame was placed under the wooden stick, slowly igniting it. A strange fragrance wafted out. The white smoke did not float up, but fell down instead. The smoke slowly scattered down and turned into a thin veil that covered the mountain of vines, enveloping the groggy people. The breathing of the people wrapped in this smoke gradually became stable, and the spiritual energy on their bodies no longer moved around. After Li Yuanqing had arranged everything, he flew to the side and hung the purple smoke seed on his body. The so-called heaven and earth sacred flame had a strong temperament and was very lethal. At the same time, after being controlled by someone, it could also erupt with extremely powerful strength. The only difference between this flame and the man-made flame was its irritability. Although man-made flames were more controllable, if he had this type of saint's flame by his side during an enemy's battle, he would not be able to extinguish it if the enemy stuck to his body. Even though this seed was small, if it was sold outside, it would definitely not be touched without a few 100,000 spirit stones. Li Yuanqing did not expect that he would make some sacrifices this time to eradicate those evil sections. In the end, he benefited a lot from it. The small flame gently swayed in front of him. Li Yuanqing closed his eyes, and the world of his divine sense slowly opened. The divine sense slowly swallowed the flame, trying to integrate it into its own world. The initial collision between the two was very gentle. From the outside, one could only see that the small purple flame was constantly trembling. However, if it fell into Li Yuanqing's silent divine sense, it would be impossible to see it. One could see that around the purple flames, a group of golden little people were holding knives, spears, axes as they fought with the phantom formed by the purple smoke. The purple smoke seemed to be alive. If one looked carefully at the small flames, they would find that they were actually warriors with half their bodies. Those warriors fought bravely and fearlessly. They desperately charged out, wanting to break out of this world of divine sense and not be bound. However, Li Yuanqing's body was tightly wrapped around him. Whenever there was a gap, a small golden person would immediately fill it up. The two sides immediately engaged in a fierce battle. Li Yuanqing sat in the domain space for 3 days. Unknowingly, his body had also risen into the air. An incomparably dense purple flame enveloped his entire body. The flames would occasionally transform into the shape of a lotus flower or a sharp spearhead. Every time the flames changed, Li Yuanqing's figure seemed to twist back and forth with the flames. His body was no longer human. It was actually fluctuating back and forth with the flames, completely fusing into one. In the herbal field, no outsiders came to disturb them for the past few days. Ever since Wang Lan came to inform him last time, Zhao Baoyan was very tactful. He did not dare to come over and cause trouble for Li Yuanqing, afraid that he would be remembered. Li Yuanqing was happy to be at ease. He left the wood spirit clone outside and let it look after the herbal field. Now, he was fully focused on refining the flame. He frowned and formed a hand seal in front of him. From the outside, he could vaguely feel a majestic power gathering in his body. The power continued to flow through his body, attracting the purple flames outside. It turned out that the constantly changing shape of the purple flames outside was actually the true manifestation of the power in Li Yuanqing's body. A bolt of lightning appeared out of thin air and struck Li Yuanqing's head. Although Li Yuanqing's eyes were closed, he seemed to have expected this. He actually summoned a shield and placed it above his head. The shield appeared at the right time, just in time to receive the lightning. The lightning crackled on the shield and scattered into countless tiny lightning bolts that scattered in all directions. Those tiny lightning bolts fell into the forest below, causing many trees to explode. This was only the first one. Then, an incomparably huge dark cloud inexplicably rose above Li Yuanqing's head. The dark cloud hovered above Li Yuanqing's head. It did not belong to this domain space, but it was there, firmly locking onto Li Yuanqing. Lightning bolts kept colliding in the dark clouds, gathering into an even stronger force. The purple flames on Li Yuanqing's body also gradually solidified. In the end, the purple flames turned into a suit of armor and covered his body. A small person the size of a palm emerged from Li Yuanqing's head. The small person jumped into the air and suddenly grew a lot. The shield on his head was held in his left hand. With a flash of his right hand, a jade wave sword appeared in his hand. If one looked closely at the golden figure, it was obvious that he looked 90% similar to Li Yuanqing. At this moment, the golden figure held a shield in one hand and a long sword in the other. He looked up at the dark clouds in the sky. Suddenly, there was a flash of light in the sky. The golden figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already high up in the sky. With a flash, he appeared there. He raised the sword in his hand high and stabbed it at the dark cloud. His sword turned into a long rainbow and slashed into the dark clouds. The golden rainbow fell into the dark clouds and actually split a long and narrow crack in them. The dark clouds that were slowly forming a vortex were suddenly interrupted. Not only that, but the golden figure in the sky was not finished. With a wave of his hand, tens of thousands of golden lights appeared in front of him. Zhou Yang's green sword chi condensed almost at the same time, and after a short pause, they all attacked the main body of the dark cloud. Not only did he want to resolve the progress of the dark clouds, but he also wanted to eliminate the dark clouds in one fell swoop and successfully pass this calamity. The golden figure formed by Li Yuanqing's divine sense suddenly glowed with a purple light. The purple flames were directly injected into the sword chi that had already arrived below the dark clouds. The tens of thousands of sword chi instantly became incomparably sharp after being enhanced. It looked like this powerful attack was about to disperse all the dark clouds. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly stopped. Not only that, but the sword chi that had already reached them under the dark clouds also stopped moving as if time had stopped. After a short pause, the boundless dark clouds slowly turned in the opposite direction and began to spin slowly. As he spun, he released a huge suction force from within. The suction force was so strong that it sucked in almost everything around it. Whether it was the sword chi or Li Yuanqing who was standing below, they were all pulled by that powerful attraction. Li Yuanqing saw that the situation was not right and hurriedly retreated. He raised the shield in his hand high up. The shield extended out and turned into a golden ball of light that enveloped him. He sat in the middle of the golden ball of light and kept falling until he finally landed directly in the main body. Li Yuanqing, who had been closing his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes and looked up into the sky. He had been careless just now and underestimated the strength of the dark clouds. He thought that he only had that little strength and could easily destroy him. However, he did not expect the heavenly tribulation to come in so violently this time. It seemed that it was unrealistic to dodge. Li Yuanqing looked up at the sky with a sharp gaze, and a mighty aura spread out from his body. The aura on his body was still not stable. He could clearly feel the power of the supreme realm, and the pressure was constantly being released. In these short 3 days, he had actually completed the transformation from the peak of the array realm to the supreme realm. Li Yuanqing held a shield in his hand, and there was a layer of purple flames on his body, which was faintly discernible. He had to thank Huafeng. If it wasn't for the purple smoke fire seed that Huafeng gave him, he wouldn't have suddenly had an opportunity when he was refining the flame and actually broke through just like that. The increase in strength brought by breaking through to the supreme realm was huge. Li Yuanqing felt the power in his body and could not help but release some of it. He had already fused perfectly with the purple smoke's fire seed. He suddenly stretched out his right hand. A strong flame burned on his right palm. The flame continued to expand and finally turned into an incomparably bright fireball. Li Yuanqing continued to brew the fireball in his palm and continued to grow. The huge sword chi that had pierced towards the dark cloud earlier had also been absorbed without a trace. It had all been swallowed clean. The dark cloud seemed to have tasted the sweetness. It didn't even need to turn back. It kept spinning crazily. The vortex became bigger and bigger until it became a huge pocket. The purple fireball in Li Yuanqing's hand gradually took shape. He was holding a purple fireball that was 1,000 feet wide, covering the others until they could not be seen. It was almost complete when it was formed to this size. Li Yuanqing carried the shield on his back and dragged the bottom of the fireball with both hands. Immediately after, he exerted a powerful force with both hands, lifting the fireball up and throwing it into the sky. The The fireball that blotted out the sky seemed to be trying to cover up the wind from the vortex above. It carried an incomparably dazzling light that illuminated the entire black vortex. The black vortex formed by the dark clouds seemed to have realized that danger was approaching and began to accelerate rapidly. It was as if it had life, spinning faster and faster. The attraction of the inside of the house was getting stronger and stronger. In the end, the two of them collided as expected. Their collision did not produce the intense explosion that he had imagined. Instead, it was very, very quiet. The sound was so quiet that it was as if the explosion had never happened. The flames spread in all directions. The shockwave carried a scorching heat wave as it finally swept down from the sky. The golden light in front of Li Yuanqing flourished, directly isolating him from the heat wave. He took out a black square platform with a flip of his hand. He suddenly summoned the square platform and turned it into a 0.00-foot-wide platform. He stood in the center of the square platform like a god. The endless flames crashed into the square platform below, creating a head-on collision. On the square platform, countless golden lights shone. A dense fog gradually rose up and enveloped the entire square platform. After all the smoke dissipated, the altar in the sky had disappeared without a trace, so had Li Yuanqing. The dark clouds had also disappeared without a trace. The forest below was preserved intact. In the intense collision just now, Li Yuanqing had forcefully leaned against the altar and withstood the aftershock of the explosion. If all the aftershocks were to fall, the forest that he had painstakingly cultivated would probably be destroyed. Now that he had finally passed the heavenly tribulation, the energy in his body gradually stabilized and no longer fluctuated so violently. Li Yuanqing silently sensed the gradually changing power in his body. The difference between the Supreme Realm and the Array Realm was like heaven and earth. Although his spiritual sense was strong enough, it was very dangerous for him to transform the Array into a real blood plank road and use it as a Dharma idol. But now, his divine sense was so powerful that it was completely corporeal. Even if he were to leave and fight alone, it would not be a problem. A golden light flashed in front of Li Yuanqing, and a small golden person appeared out of thin air. The little person looked exactly the same as him, and its body expanded rapidly, immediately becoming the same size as him. If there was a layer of cover on the outside, it would probably be very difficult to tell which of the two was the main body and which was the divine sense. Li Yuanqing's expression changed, and an extremely huge Dharma idol suddenly appeared behind him. Fa Yuanxiang still had that benevolent look on his face. His head was controlled by Li Yuanqing to become much smaller, and it wasn't as loud as it was when he came out. However, even though it had shrunk by 1,000 times, this Fa Yuanxiang was still like a giant. Now that his spiritual sense had been greatly improved, he didn't know if the source image of law enforcement could also make great progress. If it could only be used to scare people, it would be a waste. As Li Yuanqing thought about it, he slowly activated the source image. Li Yuanqing's consciousness and the source image stood on both sides of the main body. Li Yuanqing carefully sensed the energy fluctuations in the source image. This source image looked very different from before. Although he had already adapted to it for a very long time, the strength of the source image could not be increased. It was as if he could only be used as a vase. However, this time, when Li Yuanqing activated it again, he found that the power in the source image had a very obvious fluctuation. Li Yuanqing took out a long spear with his divine sense. The tip of the spear was burning with purple smoke and earth fire as he attacked Fa Yuanxiang. The long spear came very quickly, and it was in front of him in an instant. Fa Yuanxiang slowly stretched out a hand. It seemed very calm, but it easily caught Li Yuanqing's spear. Seeing that the spear was blocked, Li Yuanqing turned his hand. The spear immediately burned with raging flames and instantly enveloped the source image. A moment later, the raging flames calmed down. Li Yuanqing took a step back and looked at the source image. Fa Yuanxiang, who had just been burned by the fire, was now unscathed and stood there. Li Yuanqing curiously ran to Fa Yuanxiang's side and looked around. He couldn't help but be surprised. Although his purple smoke earth and fire was only in the form of a fire seed, the degree of refinement was not enough. However, under the push of his powerful strength, the power was still very extraordinary. At the very least, ordinary Supreme Realm cultivators would definitely not forcefully withstand the flames. However, when the fire hit the Fa Yuanxiang, it did not cause any ripples. After he advanced to the Supreme Realm, the strength of the Fa Yuanxiang also increased greatly. Li Yuanqing couldn't help but feel a little excited. If he broke through to the Divine Fire Realm one day, what would the origin image look like? With a wave of his hand, the source image disappeared into thin air. On the ground, the small hill formed by the man-eating vines was still standing there. Although Li Yuanqing had added layers of restrictions on it, it was still obvious that their bodies were still expanding. It seemed that the matter of finding Master Myriad Mushroom was imminent. However, Li Yuanqing had another important matter to attend to. He flipped his hand and took out the plate that Wang Lan had given him. He still had so much divine source water in his hands. Now that the situation was tense, it was not good to continue expanding the cultivation in the sect on a large scale. It was better to think of other methods to be safe for the time being. He decided to take a look at this place first. However, he still needed to prepare enough materials before he went over. The herbs had just been planted recently, so he had a good understanding of the process of planting herbs in the immortal world. The main thing was the ripening array. With the support of the array, the speed at which the plants absorbed spiritual power would be much faster. It could also greatly shorten the planting time, and also play a very good role in protecting the medicinal herbs. He decided to make another trip to Golden Bamboo Mountain. Li Yuanqing changed his appearance and returned to his skinny appearance. He came to the black market of Golden Bamboo Mountain. However, after arriving here, he realized that everything had changed. The originally towering mountain peak was cut in half for no reason. The slanted blade was as smooth as a mirror, and it looked daunting. The golden bamboos on the mountain had disappeared, leaving only ruins. This place was ruined. Li Yuanqing had never expected that the black market would be razed to the ground after not being here for a long time. Moreover, it was very quiet below, and there were no people coming or going. After observing for a moment, Li Yuanqing decided to go in and look for any clues. He slowly moved toward the entrance and found a sneaky figure outside the entrance. Li Yuanqing appeared behind that person in a flash, grabbed his neck, and lifted him up. The man was scared half to death and frantically begged for mercy with his eyes closed. "Sir, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I just happened to pass by and definitely did not mean to offend you. I hope you can be magnanimous." Li Yuanqing pulled this person in front of him. At a glance, it was the titmouse that he had interacted with before. However, when he first came here, the titmouse was still arrogant. Now, it had become so embarrassed. Li Yuanqing threw the 3 green rings on the ground and looked at him quietly. The titmouse crawled on the ground and did not dare to raise her head. She kept kowtowing and admitting her mistake. "Thank you, sir, for being magnanimous. Thank you for not killing me. Take a look at who I am first." I don't dare. The titmouse did not dare to raise her head and kept her hair on the ground, afraid that if she saw Li Yuanqing's face, she would be gone. Li Yuanqing shook his head helplessly and said, "Raise your head. I still have something to ask you." The mountain magpie heard him say this and stopped slightly. After thinking for a moment, this voice was somewhat familiar. It felt like it had heard it somewhere before. He carefully raised his head and looked at the upper half of Li Yuanqing's body. He was finally getting familiar with this body shape. He looked at Li Yuanqing's face in surprise and finally let out a long sigh of relief. "Brother Zhao?" Tit looked at Li Yuanqing excitedly. After sensing for a moment, a shocked expression suddenly appeared on her face. She hurriedly changed her words and said, "Venerable Zhao, why are you here?" Li Yuanqing did not care about the way he addressed him and directly asked him, "What happened? I haven't been here for a few days. How did I get burned to this state? Who did this?" Tit slowly stood up and looked at Li Yuanqing with a bitter expression. "Supremacy Zhao, there's something you don't know. Ever since you came here, our black market business has become more and more prosperous." Li Yuanqing also knew about this matter. Many people from the East Gate had sent people to guard this place, waiting for the appearance of his fire spirit fruit. Then what happened? The titmouse shook her head with a face full of grief. It's precisely because this business is too prosperous that it has led to a disaster. Do you know about the Divine Fire sect? I've heard of it. What does this have to do with them? In the beginning, the Divine Fire sect was still doing things normally. Their style was still considered righteous. No matter what exchange they made, they would do it normally. The titmouse sighed and shook her head, but towards the end, their temperament suddenly changed. They directly sent an army to surround the Golden Bamboo Mountain, so all of this was done by them. That's right. They have the advantage in numbers. We're really not their match. Moreover, there was a powerful person among them. He directly slashed down and split the Golden Bamboo Mountain into two. The other part flew 30 miles away. What about the people in the black market? The titmouse looked around in fear. She looked around Li Yuanqing as if she was confirming that there was no one outside. Supremacy Zhao, there's something you don't know. The people from the Divine Fire sect are very powerful. However, I happened to be outside at that time, so I avoided the disaster. However, they were not so lucky in the market. It turned out that the Divine Fire sect had already set their sights on the black market of Golden Bamboo Mountain. That day, they had sent an army to surround the place. Even the customers who came to trade and the operators of the black market were arrested. In the entire Golden Bamboo Mountain, only they, who were entertaining guests at the periphery, had a chance to escape. The titmouse sighed at his good luck. He came back this time to sneak into the black market to see if he could find some good things. The Divine Fire sect has already been destroyed. Did you find any news about the missing people? The titmouse knew that there was not much she could do to him. She shook her head and said, I only heard that the people from the Divine Fire sect were all killed when they surrounded the Cloud Sky sect, but no one came back. He had heard that they were locked up in the Divine Fire sect's dungeon. Perhaps they had already been killed. Li Yuanqing did not expect that he would make a wasted trip here to purchase some materials. He did not know what to do now. Could it be that Supremacy Zhao came here to trade? That's right. I need some materials, so I came here to take a look. That's really a pity. There's nothing here now, and the news of the entire army being wiped out has already spread out. No one dares to come to Golden Bamboo Mountain to make any deals. Then do you know if there are any other markets nearby where you can buy some materials? That depends on what kind of materials you need. The titmouse smiled and said, if it's an ordinary material, there are actually many small markets that we can go to. It was just that it was not as complete as here. Li Yuanqing took out the list of arrays in the herbal field and showed it to the titmouse. The chickadee looked over and her expression changed. Venerable one, the materials you need are too complicated, and most of them are very rare treasures. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to find them in those small markets. Then do you know who has a way to find these treasures? The titmouse immediately thought of a person, but she felt that something was wrong, so she dismissed the idea and said, Master Wuyan has a wide range of connections. If it were him, he would definitely have a way. It was just a pity that Grandmaster's bottom lane was unknown. If they could find him, they would definitely have a way. This was a troublesome matter. Although Li Yuanqing had a lot of materials, the items used in the immortal world had their own unique characteristics. Although it was just a very ordinary array formation for a medicinal field, there were still many materials that were difficult to find. If he did not go through these underground markets, he would probably have to think of a way to get it from those large sects. However, the sect's control was very strict. They usually recorded the transaction of materials in detail, which was also very inconvenient. Do you know where the Divine Fire Gate's dungeon is? I heard that it's under the main peak, but I don't know if it's true. Tit looked at Li Yuanqing carefully and reminded him, Zhao Zuns, what are you planning to do? I heard that although more than half of the Divine Fire sect's strength has been wiped out, there are still many puppets wandering around the sect. Many people who wanted to go in and seize the opportunity suffered. Not even half of the people who went in came out. I can't believe it's the same thing. Li Yuanqing was rather interested in this. That day, the so-called Elder Yushan had summoned all the puppet authorization and ran away. He had originally wanted to capture 1 or 2 puppets for research, but he did not have such an opportunity. But today there was actually a white and a puppet wandering around. Wasn't this his best opportunity? The titmouse thought that Li Yuanqing was afraid and comforted him. Venerable one, actually, if you're not in a hurry, it's not like there's no way. Every large sect would have 1 or 2 opportunities a year to conduct large-scale transactions with the outside world. At that time, many materials that could only be found in the sect would be taken out for trade. I think the materials that Venerable One needs are mostly commonly used in large sections. I might be able to give it a try when the time comes. Li Yuanqing had heard a little about this transaction between sects. However, the frequency was too low. It was only opened once or twice a year, and the next time would be a few months later. He could not wait that long. The best solution now was to look for Master Wu Yan. Li Yuanqing said to him, "I didn't say that I wanted to give up. I just said that your worries are reasonable. I can understand, but it's not up to you whether you go or not now." "Zhao Zuns, what are you doing?" Li Yuanqing raised his hand, and the two of them quickly rushed in the direction of the Divine Fire Sect. Outside the Divine Fire Sect, many cultivators gathered together. They were on guard against each other, but they all had a common goal. They wanted to take a share of the profits when this large sect fell. Rogue cultivators like them usually did not have such an opportunity to have a pie fall from the sky. This time, he had to firmly grasp the great benefits. He couldn't let such benefits go to waste. At this moment, 2 men flew over from afar. One of them was in the Supreme Realm, while the other was in the Array Realm. They found an empty spot and landed. The Tits stood beside Li Yuanqing in resistance. He still wanted to escape, but Li Yuanqing had planted a flame in his stomach. As long as he had any thoughts of escaping, the flame would instantly detonate and set his entire body on fire. Right now, he was going to die if he went forward, and he was going to die if he went forward. He had thought that he would be safe after bumping into an acquaintance, but now he realized that this acquaintance was the most dangerous. "Supremacy Zhao, let's go first. Who are the people gathered around now? Even they don't dare to enter. What are the two of us doing here?" "You're already here. Where do you want to go?" "Zhao Zuns, don't be angry. I'm just trying to advise you out of kindness. It's really dangerous inside. Look at them. None of them made a move. That golden retriever over there is a 5th-level Supreme Realm person. He's guarding at the side and doesn't dare to make a move." Li Yuanqing was observing the movements inside and replied incoherently, "Do you think I'm the kind of person who would send myself to death?" Tit looked at Li Yuanqing with a bitter face and nodded silently. "Zhao Zunjia, I feel that sometimes it's better to have a clear understanding of your own strength." A huge network appeared before Li Yuanqing's eyes. This network covered the entire Divine Fire Sect. There weren't many people left alive, but there were still people who were stubbornly resisting. That was the node of the Protector battle, which was still controlled by them. This was also the reason why there were so many casualties among the people who went in. The value of the game is over. Most of the wandering cultivators in the outer regions of the Divine Fire Sect were from demon clans. The reason was that the status of the demon race in the immortal world was generally not high, and they usually did not have enough resources. For resources that could be obtained for no reason, they naturally wanted to come and take a share. Each of them was dawdling, each guarding a place and occupying a mountain peak. They had no intention of attacking, as if they had already discussed it beforehand. Li Yuanqing led the titmouse and ran a big circle from the front to the back. The Divine Fire Sect was originally only a small sect, but with such a violent fire attribute cultivation method, it could barely stand firm. However, the nature of their spirit or veins was not considered strong. They could only be considered very ordinary. The area it occupied was also far smaller than the Wu Yuan sect. The terrain in front of the Divine Fire Sect was relatively fiat. There were only 2 small mountain ranges that were less than 1,000 feet tall that were isolated from the outside world. However, it was precisely because the terrain here was too smooth that the array formation in front of them was especially tight. Li Yuanqing had just looked around and discovered that the density of the array formation in the front direction was extremely high. If he wanted to break out of here, it would probably be too strenuous. This was also why many rogue cultivators retreated to the back and waited quietly. The strength of the front was indeed high enough. Coupled with those powerful puppets, it was normal for them to be able to defend until now. Before Li Yuanqing came, he was still wondering why the people of the Divine Fire Sect could still guard against the many people outside who were eyeing them covetously. However, after so many years, they were still able to get along peacefully. This meant that this canyon was definitely difficult to cross. It was precisely because many people had such thoughts that when Li Yuanqing went around to the back, he realized that there were not many people guarding this area. One had to know that there would be a small team guarding the outer area. However, when they arrived here, they all quieted down. Everyone tacitly avoided this natural barrier. Li Yuanqing raised his head and looked at this majestic mountain peak that was 10,000 feet tall. He couldn't help but sigh at the wonder of the terrain of the immortal world. Venerable, are you not familiar with the situation here? The titmouse looked at Li Yuanqing with a bitter face, then looked at the mountain peak with fear. This mountain is full of ruthless people. Aren't you looking for trouble by coming here? If they get angry and attack us later, we won't be able to escape. We're not here to cause trouble for them. Follow me. After Li Yuanqing finished speaking, he directly brought the titmouse and rushed towards the core of the mountain peak. Ever since Tit came here, she had become frightened. He was always on guard around him, afraid that some powerful figure would jump out or touch the boundaries of others. If he was caught red-handed, he would at least lose a layer of skin. Li Yuanqing was really a newborn calf that was not afraid of tigers. He charged forward and even crossed the mountainside from 1,000 feet in the air to the ravine between the two sides. This kind of boldness really scared the titmouse. Fortunately, nothing happened. She didn't know if it was luck or something else, but she didn't provoke anyone. At this moment, apart from the dense forest behind them, there was a semicircular gully that stretched for 300 miles. This long and narrow crack was over 100 wide, and there was always a cold wind blowing up from below. Gusts of wind kept surging up, and from time to time, a big one would come, catching people off guard. The wind howled and did not surge out. The tits did not dare to move forward, and only dared to hide behind Li Yuanqing. Venerable one, this place is impossible to pass through. You have to know that both sides have been able to live in peace for so many years because of this natural barrier. The titmouse tugged at Li Yuanqing's clothes bitterly, wanting to persuade him to leave. If the two of us pass here, we'll definitely die. Let's go back. Li Yuanqing ignored him. Instead, he closed his eyes and slowly sensed the situation in front of him. After a moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. This place was indeed as he had sensed earlier. This was the opening in the opponent's array formation. It was unknown where the people of the Divine Fire sect had gotten their hands on a powerful protective array that divided the entire sect into 7 sections, each of which relied on each other. If any area was attacked or invaded by enemies, the power from other places would flow over and form a certain protective effect. The advantage of this formation was that it could form the strongest protective effect with the smallest amount of power. It was also a very clever method. Generally speaking, only people with some ability could design such an exquisite array. However, if their array formation was completely spread out, Li Yuanqing would probably really have to retreat a little. But now, they did not have that much time to spread out. Instead, they left a huge gap. The main entrance in front of them was naturally well decorated. However, the 2 pieces behind his but had very obvious energy holes. They had probably spent a lot of effort to set up this array formation in a hurry. It would be a luxury if they wanted to complete it.
Li Yuanqing nodded in satisfaction.
The only obstacle he had now was the ravine in front of him. Although this natural barrier looked a little scary, in Li Yuanqing's opinion, it was not impossible to cross. This place was very attractive to Li Yuanqing. The Divine Fire sect's large-scale collection of materials was defeated outside. It was so sudden that they definitely did not have time to move. On the other hand, he had to find Master Wu Yan to help him find these materials. Otherwise, it would be difficult to collect them all in a short period of time. With these 2 conditions, Li Yuanqing's motive was sufficient. Li Yuanqing suddenly opened his arms, and a pair of wings suddenly stretched out from his back. It slowly grew until it was more than 100 feet long before it slowly stopped. Li Yuanqing flapped his wings, and a gust of wind came out of nowhere, almost blowing the titmouse away. Venerable! The titmouse struggled to steady herself on the ground and shouted. Li Yuanqing said, "Venerable one, you can go on your own. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Farewell." Just as the titmouse was about to escape, Li Yuanqing suddenly turned around and glared at him coldly, scaring him half to death. He hurriedly looked left and right, but he could not see a single person in the sky. After Li Yuanqing came over, he immediately summoned the source image back. The moment the huge Dharma idol disappeared, the wind below was completely unrestrained. Without any explanation, it let out a powerful roar and swept upwards. In front of the two of them, the black wind turned into a chaotic demon king. Its pitch-black body waved a huge black axe and continuously roared. However, no matter how much he roared, his axe could only reach the edge of the canyon. If he wanted to go out, he would be blown away by the wind, leaving nothing behind. This black devil king was so powerful that it scared the titmouse quite a bit. Fortunately, that seemingly destructive attack did not hit the two of them in the end, which made him heave a sigh of relief. He looked at Li Yuanqing with reverence. Just a moment ago, he thought that Li Yuanqing was just an ordinary guy. But now, Li Yuanqing's image in his heart had risen to a whole new level. This was simply a godlike existence. Why would such a mighty figure be so low-key? It was really puzzling. Supremacy, Zhao. The titmouse's legs suddenly gave way, and she knelt down in front of Li Yuanqing. What are you doing? Supremacy, please calm down. I was confused for a moment. I didn't expect a supremacy to have such powerful strength. If I had said it earlier, I wouldn't have been so frightened. I already told you not to panic. How can you blame me for pretending like that? Li Yuanqing's words really did not have the intention of blaming him, which frightened the titmouse quite a bit. The titmouse hurriedly explained, "Venerable One, please calm down. I was blind and did not see the Venerable One's powerful strength. I was short-sighted." Enough. Li Yuanqing waved his hand and interrupted all his polite words. Cut the crap. We still have things to do later. Follow closely later. Don't lose it. If you take a wrong step, you'll be consigned to eternal damnation, understand? Venerable One, don't worry. Little sister will definitely follow Venerable One closely and won't move even half a step. Li Yuanqing glanced at him and finally said, "You better be." After he finished speaking, he flashed and entered a dense bush in the dense forest ahead. Venerable, be careful. There were many arrays here. If one was not careful, they would probably step into a trap. The titmouse was still warning him from behind and hurriedly followed. On the other hand, Li Yuanqing brought the titmouse into the dense forest behind him. However, there were layers of mechanisms and countless changes. There were many bones scattered all over the place. It was likely that many people wanted to take this shortcut, but they all died on this path. The people of the Divine Fire sect had not cleaned up these bones for so many years. They wanted these dead people to warn the people who came later not to cause trouble here. However, all of this seemed to be non-existent to Li Yuanqing. He walked forward step by step along a very strange path. They moved very slowly, but it was very safe. At least, they had already walked so far and did not find any problems. The titmouse even suspected that the array formation behind them had already lost its effectiveness, or that no one was controlling the array formation, so it had not been triggered at all. However, when he thought of Li Yuanqing's instructions just now, he did not dare to casually probe. If he stepped on the wrong mechanism, he would become a part of this skeleton. He stepped on a bone and looked to the side. There was a skeleton lying on the road beside him. The skeleton was wearing a very gorgeous coat. There were faint threads of crystal light flowing on the coat. Heavenly silkworm robe? Tit stared at the treasure with wide eyes. This person was dressed in gorgeous clothes and had a storage ring on his hand. There was also a jade necklace around his neck. He was extremely tempted by these treasures. How much were they worth? If he saw it and didn't take it away, wouldn't he be giving it to others? There was a fence here, and in the middle of the fence was a piece of land. They had also planted many medicinal herbs here. However, the size of these medicinal herbs was very unfortunate. At a glance, this thing was really pitifully small. No wonder they had to spend so much money to buy materials outside. Of course, this was also the foundation of their small sect. Such a small divine fire sect naturally could not compare to the large primordial martial sect. There were still a few puppets patrolling the fields. After the two of them arrived, they slowed down. They guarded behind the fence and observed carefully. Venerable one, you don't know how powerful those puppets are. There's no need for us to fight them head-on, right? Besides, you saw that there are so many people guarding outside. There were many rogue cultivators in the periphery. If they worked together to kill, it did not mean that they would not have a chance to take down this place. However, they were idle individuals after all. Everyone was thinking about each other. After solving all the difficulties, they would go in and pick up the leftovers. Thus, they all stood guard there, but no one was willing to make a move. If Li Yuanqing were to start a conflict here, it would definitely cause the defense in front to be lowered. This way, there would be many people outside who would pick up the loot. Therefore, as long as they started to make their move, there would not be much time left. They had to find the core location of the Divine Fire sect in the shortest time possible to obtain enough benefits. Li Yuanqing squatted beside the fence and sensed for a while. Suddenly, he stood behind him and took a look. The titmouse followed him and looked behind, but she didn't sense anything. Li Yuanqing suddenly summoned a black altar. Wisps of black smoke scattered from the altar and covered the two of them. Then, they completely fused with the background until they disappeared. Although the titmouse didn't know why Li Yuanqing was doing this, he didn't even dare to breathe loudly when he saw how careful Li Yuanqing was. He only dared to guard carefully.